Showtime!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Rosie and Bill Show. Our guest this week has brightened the days and lives of millions of viewers as Fox LA's morning meteorologist. In addition to that, she's provided help and support to people facing some of life's most difficult challenges. Please welcome to the Rosie and Bill Show, meteorologist, author, and all-around proponent of positivity, Maria Quiban Whitesell. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to meet the both of you, and thank you for letting me share our story today.
Well, we are so happy to have you here. And you just mentioned your story. And I have to tell you, Maria, and for those of folks watching, your story is truly amazing. And it's been an inspirational journey thus far. And I'm sure there are many more chapters yet to be written. And if you don't mind, I'd like to turn the clock back just a little bit to one of the earlier chapters in your life. At the age of 10, you, your mother, and your brother immigrated to Hawaii. Now, what I'd like to know is, at what point did you realize that journalism was your calling, and what was it that steered you eventually toward meteorology?
That's such a great question. And I've shared this many times about how important it is in this time to see women in positions of power. And for me, especially women of color, when I was a little girl, when we were living in the Philippines, I remember vividly running home to watch this very popular television program called Sesame Street. And it was on this show that I just felt so happy every time I watched it. And I saw a woman there who was the same color as me. She was brown, and her name was Maria. And I was just so enamored by her. And I thought, wow, what a fantastic thing to do, to be able to work in this box, is what I called the television, and to make us so happy. And I think that was where it was born. That seed was planted in me, that I wanted to do something like that, some form, some shape of it, to work in this box, this television, this medium, to try to make others feel the way I did when I was that little girl.
Well, it's interesting because, as life often does, it throws us curveballs, or we're going down one path and then we end up having to veer off into another path. And you've been very transparent about this. You've, shared that you had your first child when you were in high school. And also you managed somehow to go to college and pursue your career. How did you juggle all of those responsibilities? Where did you draw your strength from?
The title of my book is called You Can't Do It Alone. And it is so true for so much in life, not just right now during this crazy time in the world of the pandemic, where so many of us are so isolated from each other. But for me, growing up in a very traditional Filipino household, as you mentioned, Bill, our little family, my mother, my younger brother, and I, after my own birth father actually died when I was 7, he passed away in an accident. And so I really learned early on to grow up quickly with some, new challenges and a bigger responsibility. So my mom had family. We had family all over the world. And so she had a sister that lived in Hawaii, and we decided to start a new life. And she brought my brother and I there. And so we have a very close-knit family. And when I was in high school, I fell in love with my childhood sweetheart. We actually grew up together. He lived right down the road from me. And so, things happen. And when I was 17, we found out that I was pregnant. And we decided that, of course, we were going to keep our baby. And so we got married, and I had a baby at my high school graduation when I walked down to get my diploma. And but then soon after we discovered that, we were way too young to be married, and we stayed friends, of course. But my son Desmond, my older son, I definitely raised with the help of my mom and dad and my stepdad, that my mom met when we were teenagers. And I swear to you, he is my birth father reincarnated, because I love him so much, and he is like my birth father. And so they helped me raise Desmond. And in some ways, Desmond treated me like his sister sometimes, because we lived in the same house as my parents. But honestly, I could not have gone back to school, worked, and did everything that I needed to do to get where I am today without my family.
Is that why, Maria, that it's such a passion of yours to kind of share this message with other young single moms?
It is. It is. I want to tell them that, and I have spoken at different homes where young teen moms find themselves with no help at all. And I have, shared my story, and have said that even though there might be a little curveball thrown your way, that your dreams are not over, that you can still pursue your dreams. You can still go to college. You have to work hard. You have to make some sacrifices. I kind of missed out on some of the things that my other friends perhaps experienced by going away to school, and doing the things that they did. But I don't regret anything. And I think life prepares you for what's to come in the future. And I'm just so grateful for all the lessons I've learned and the strength I've gained to this day.
Maria, you just talked about how life prepares you for things. And immediately what came to mind was another situation that you had to deal with, and I know is a focal point of your book as well. And if we fast forward to a little bit later on in your life, you get remarried, you marry Sean Whitesell, and out of nowhere, there's this unbelievable diagnosis that he's been diagnosed with a very rare form of brain cancer. And I don't care who you are, I don't think anybody can be prepared for that. But yet you had to face this head on, and you had to be strong for your son. You had to be strong for Sean, and you had to keep a smile on your face all the while for the millions of viewers watching you every day on television. How were you able to get through that the way that you did?
I know. I look back on those days sometimes, and I wonder myself. But during those times, I really just tried to live in that moment. And I knew that first of all, I had to go to work. I couldn't stop working because we needed the income. We needed to continue to live how we were living, and having a diagnosis like brain cancer, which there is no cure for. We needed to try different experimental treatments, and fly here and there. And so first of all, I needed to go to work, which is what most people have to do. I was able to compartmentalize, and I told myself that when I was going to work, that I was going to put away my caregiver hat, and put my meteorologist cap, my news person cap on. And when I stepped out of the elevator, that was what I was focused on. And fortunately for me, I really am so thankful for the family that I had at work, because they knew what I was going through to some degree, and they really tried their hardest to make me laugh. They made me smile. They just did everything they could to try to get my mind off of some of the stress from home. And you know what? It saved me. Going to work actually did help me. As much as I wanted to be at home and maybe get some sleep, going to work actually did help me, and it was good for me. And my viewers, the TV family that I had that watched and knew about what was going on at home, they helped me so much by sending me messages and praying for us the whole time. So I have to say that I didn't do it by myself. I had a lot of help. I had my village around me.
That's really important. Now, you wrote this incredible book, which is very inspirational. Talk to us about that, and let our viewers know what inspired you to actually put pen to paper with this.
I have to go back and talk about Sean and myself, and how we came to find out his diagnosis. First of all, we were shocked. We couldn't believe it. Sean was the healthiest person that I knew. He exercised, he ate right, he did all the right things. So the fact that he got this disease was so was so devastating to us and our family, knowing who he was. So we questioned God. We asked God, like, why? I'm sure everyone asks this. Why us? We really tried to do everything right. We went to church, we prayed, we helped other people, and I suppose we'll never know. But as Sean and I went through therapy and we talked about, why we might be the ones having to go through this, we couldn't help but remember that I wore a microphone every day. He was a writer by profession. And we thought, well, perhaps this is part of our purpose, that our purpose, from God, is to help shine the light on this disease for which there is no cure. And maybe our purpose was to write a script or a story. And so Sean was supposed to do this, not me. I'm not the writer. I just talk for a living. I don't even read scripts. I don't write scripts. I don't read scripts. As the weather anchor, we just ad lib. Some of you, I'm sure some other meteorologists on the air, like on the news, we don't even write things. We just talk about the weather. So this book idea and writing a story, it was really supposed to be Sean that did it. And so it wasn't until a year after he died that a really good friend of ours sent me this leather bound book with every single email update that I had written over those 18 months. Wow. And as I was it was such an amazing gift. And I was leafing through the book, and then I realized, oh my gosh, this is a lot that I wrote. And I remembered the promise that Sean and I made to each other about writing a story so that we could serve our purpose. And so that was really when I started writing the book. And I thought, okay, I'm going to fulfill my promise, and I'm going to write our story in hopes of helping other people, because this is honestly the book I wish I had at the beginning of our journey.
That's so beautiful. I mean, it's so bittersweet, but I'm sure that he is like, so happy that you did that. What a way to honor him. And like you said, and reach all of the people who really need to read this.
Yeah. I talk to Sean every day, and I think he wrote the book, actually, because I would sit there on my desk and I would say, well, what do I do now? Where do I start? What do I write? And I would, go like this and be like, you better help me write this. And so, I think just one page at a time. And I really think he had a big hand in it. And I also have to say thank you to my contributing writer, Lauren Schneider, who is a licensed family therapist who specializes in children and grief and loss. And so what she did was she took each chapter and each of a passage that we had in our journey, and she made it universal for everyone. And so she really took the lessons that we learned and made sure to apply it so that anyone and everyone can read it and really apply some of those lessons for themselves.
And Maria, I think that one of the things that jumped out at me as you were describing that too was you said that this was the book that you wish you had had. And mm-hmm. I just think your reaction to that and reacting in that way also says a lot about the person you are, because there are some people that would feel, well, gee, if I didn't have that, what difference does it make if anyone else has that? Whereas you were the opposite. I wish I would have had that. I want to make sure others have that so we can be there as something to help them get through this process. I mean, I just think that's tremendous on your part.
Oh, thank you. It was a really dark journey. And, I was searching feverishly and Googling everything about this disease. And what I have found is that this is such a grueling type of cancer that I can understand why many people, after their loved one passes away, that they don't even want to revisit those moments, which was difficult for me. I mean, I'm not going to lie, going back to those moments while writing the book was a very, it was hard. It was sad. It was cathartic because I did do a lot of crying while I wrote this book, but it was also a way for me, I think, to stay connected with Sean. And I met some wonderful people along the way, including my brain cancer caregiver support group at UCLA, and their stories in part are in this book. And without them, I know that the journey would have been even darker for me, because they were these lampposts. Their spouses passed away before mine. And so I was able to learn from their experience. And thankfully I had them, because it was already scary with them. I can only imagine how much more scary it would be for other people who don't have the kind of support I had.
Definitely. And Maria, you're now an advocate, right, for brain cancer awareness. Is that correct?
I try. I have contributed to different brain cancer events. I had the opportunity, thankfully, to fly to Washington with Global Genes. They're a rare disease organization, and they had a think tank in DC. And so they were trying to get some of the lawmakers to try to change some laws to not just help bring more funding for diseases like brain cancer, for which very little funding goes to this disease. It's one of the least funded cancers out there. So I was trying to lobby for that, but also for the caregivers. Caregivers are such a huge part of this whole process. And I can tell you from my experience that we need to take care of our caregivers a bit more, having to juggle work and caregiving and then children. It's so much, and it can take a toll on their health, as I know it has taken on mine. Yeah.
Maria, I have to say that, despite all of these things and all of the adversity that you've dealt with, one of the things that really just impressed Rosie and I about you, and when we visited your website, when we visited your social media pages, is that despite everything that you've talked about, you really put forth such a positive attitude and seem to have such a positive outlook on life despite all of these things. And one of the clearest signs I've seen of that are some of the videos, some of the TikTok videos that you've done with your son. And we've talked about the pandemic, and people are kind of quarantined and still a lot, and depending on where you live, there's different levels of restrictions, and some of us are still inside a lot more maybe than what we want to be. But I look at the two of you and I have to ask, are you having as much fun making those videos as it looks like you are?
We're having so much fun. We have to be creative as parents about how we keep our kids occupied and keep them healthy in some way and get them off of those video games. I totally understand it. During the pandemic, of course, he is playing so much more on the computer and the video games. But I try my hardest, and I think something clicked with us when it comes to the TikTok videos. And so there's dancing, and I get him up, and it's a challenge. So he's very competitive. And so I think for him it kind of worked. And so I pick a challenge like a certain dance or lip syncing to a certain thing. And so for us, we really do have a good time, and it's a way for us to continue our bond. And he keeps me going. He does. He inspires me. You talk about being very positive. For me, I have no choice. I have to choose joy. I have to choose fun, because I've made a promise to my husband, Sean, that I was going to raise our son, as best as I can, as if he were here. And so, I'm not going to let him down. And so we have still our lives to live. And Sean made me promise that we were going to live it to the best that we could.
Sean sounds like he was an absolutely amazing man, first of all. And yes, children are such a joy, and you can't help but kind of dive and delve into that with them, because their nature is to live and engage in life and discover new things. And I think that probably is the most healing aspect of things. How is he handling everything?
He's doing really good. Children are resilient. And I got to say that from my own experience, my own birth father passed away in an accident when I was 7.5. I was almost 8 years old. Gus was 5 when Sean passed away. And so I remember how it was for me as a child. And so Sean and I had many talks about how to make sure that Gus was always secure and feeling loved and never scared about life. And so we had a lot of therapy, and we still do. I'm a big proponent of counseling and therapy. And so we speak to our counselor regularly. Gus speaks to her every other month, and I speak to her every month in between. So it'll be me, then him, then us, and together. And so he is very well adjusted, and I think, And I certainly couldn't have found the language to talk to him about grief and loss without Betsy, our counselor's help. And so I encourage everyone to do that. And I have to say that we also have a very strong bond in our community at church. And so without them and our priests, we're Catholic, and without them and the community that we have, not just in the church, but in the school, this would be a lot more difficult. So I am so grateful for all of that for us. And listen, it's not that I don't have bad days. We have bad days too. I have some really tough days sometimes, and it's not all roses. And what gets me through sometimes is just trying to get through the next hour. And if I can do that, then we just keep going. But it is not without those moments as well. But I know it's going to get better, and so I just always look forward to that.
Well, and it's like you said earlier, Maria. I mean, we all have different things we have to deal with, whether it's the pandemic, a lot of people with jobs, losing loved ones, whatever it is. But you said earlier in our conversation, you choose joy, and you're looking at the positive side of things. And there are times when that choice may seem like the last one or a difficult one to make. But I just want to thank you for everything that you've done. And I just want to take another moment. When we kick off every show, we thank every guest for joining us. If you don't mind, I'd like to just take a moment to thank you again, because I'm even more happy now that we're however many minutes into this episode that you joined us, because you are a breath of fresh air, and it's truly been a joy for us to have you on the show. And I just wanted to thank you again.
Thank you. Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
No, I second that. As you were talking, I was thinking, we have the most amazing guests on this show, because you are organically and genuinely, inspirational.
Yes.
In just the way you live your life. It's not like you're trying to do anything other than just be and cope in a positive way, and in the most joyful way you're able to, with what you've been, faced with in life. But we're here to tell you it is inspirational, and it is such a pleasure to have you on the show. And on that note, we're going to have just a little bit of fun. We have a couple of weather-related questions.
We weren't going to let you off the hook without asking you some weather-related questions, Maria. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, I love it. Okay, let's go.
now, I'm going to start, partner, if that's okay. I've got a question. I'm pretty confident that I'm not the only person who's wondered about this thought-provoking question for years and years and years. And I have to know, Maria, what's the difference between partly cloudy and partly sunny?
That's a great question. It's really a question of, how do you look at this cup? Do you look at it half full or half empty? So, it depends on the day. And if I'm feeling like a half full day, I'll say partly sunny. And if it's one of those days, then I'll say partly cloudy. So that's that's really it. There's no difference.
The best possible answer.
I love that. That's fantastic. All right. So I have a question for you, because we talked about this before we started the show, that quite often weather people will get a lot of flack if, say, they predict rain and it's sunny, or they predict a sunny day and people are out on the golf course and this deluge happens.
Oh my gosh.
What is it like for you working in Southern California, where maybe there isn't as extreme temperatures and weather conditions? And also, I have a theory that the beautiful weather women, and that's why they have so many weather women, don't get as much flack. Is that true or not, do you think?
I don't think so. I will tell you this. I actually started my career in Hawaii. I was the meteorologist there for a few years. And I joke about it. They go, well, Maria, why would you move to Los Angeles when you're living in Hawaii, working in Hawaii? And I always say, I did the weather there. I just wanted an easier job. So I'm doing the weather here in LA because it was really difficult to forecast weather in Hawaii because it rained every day. That's just how it was. But here, I mean, we're lucky if we get 14 inches of rain for the whole year, or in some parts of the country, they get that in a day, as you know. Do I get flack or because listen, there are a lot of trolls who will give me a lot of trouble. They did it this morning because it rained a little bit here. And I think someone was playing golf and they said, hey, where did this rain come from this morning? But you know what? That's the nature of our job. And so you can't please everybody. And I love that sometimes sometimes we're wrong, but we still have a job. So that's good.
That's great.
What would you say is the hardest part of putting together a weather forecast on any given day? What's the hardest part?
You know what? This is going to sound crazy. It's not so much that it's the hardest part, but the most time-consuming part of my day, honestly, is figuring out what to wear. That is the most time-consuming part of my day when I prep for work. Yeah, it takes forever. I think you can relate, Rosie, sometimes, right? But for me here, doing the weather in Los Angeles, fashion really appeals to not just women, but men. And you would be surprised how many comments I receive when I ask, what should I wear with these shoes, or which pair of shoes should I wear? I'll get like 1,000 comments. If I say, hey, is it raining where you are? I'll get like no comments. But people really care about fashion and what they should wear every morning. So I think they look to me for that. So, but yeah, that's really the most time-consuming part of my job. I mean,
I completely believe it. I believe it 1,000%. And I've seen a lot of the weather people wearing 5-inch stilettos. How do you walk around in them?
Well, I don't have 5-inch ones, thank goodness. I've had 2 knee surgeries now, and
Okay.
my knee surgeon's like, okay, yeah, go ahead, keep wearing those high heels, Maria, and you keep me employed. My heels are now about 3 inches, 3 or 4, and then you'd be surprised that we take them off during our hits sometimes.
Well, Maria, my last question for you is just kind of looking ahead. You know, you've had this amazing career and you've been such an inspiration to so many people. Are there any things looking forward that maybe you haven't done yet that you look forward to doing at some point? Any big bucket list items that you're looking forward to checking the box anytime soon, or maybe when the world opens back up?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. There's so much I want to do. I would love to write another book. I mean, it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to write, and Sean I would always bring him ideas. I'd say, honey, you need to write this. You need to write this story. The story is amazing. And he would always say to me, you write it. You write it. And I was always very insecure about my abilities as a writer because I just don't do it. Like I said, I wear a microphone because I just talk every day. But I would love to write another book, this time, not on such a heavy subject matter, but I would love to write a novel. So I would like to start working on that. I would love to travel more. I would love to talk to people and meet people who have gone through what we've gone through and hopefully provide some support for them. And all I know is that when I talk about Sean, when I talk about our book and the idea of helping others, it heals my heart. My heart has been broken into a million pieces. I've lost my happily ever after. But I'm confident that by doing what I'm doing now, that helping other people will help heal my heart. And maybe one day, I don't know if it's possible, but maybe I will meet someone that can spend at least the rest of my life with in some way, shape, or form. I know Sean would want that for me, and he made sure that I knew that. And so, if that happens, then I will gladly take it. If it doesn't, I also know that I've had a great love, and that satisfies me as well.
God bless you, Maria. I have no doubt that, there will be love in your bright future, as if I can be an amateur forecaster here. I think your future is very bright. Again, we thank you for sharing this heartfelt story and everything that has gone on in your life and that has led you to inspire and share it with so many people. And you are just a beautiful soul. And we thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for that, those beautiful words, and thank you for having me on your show today.
Our pleasure, Maria. So I will thank you again as well. And folks, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Imagine playing on a sandy beach when out of nowhere you see a giant tsunami headed right for you. We were living our happily ever after.
Niagara Falls, baby. What do you live for?
But then those warning sounds went off. My husband Sean's brain cancer diagnosis blindsided us, and those waves started coming. How do you tell your toddler his daddy's going to die? Balance work, hospital visits, caregiving. We lived through it. Somehow.